Hi, boys and girls. How are you? I know that this is a crazy situation that we're in, but I wanted to still be able to read to you. So I thought that the first reading would only make sense for me to finish our I Survived book. Okay, I'm going to read the last chapter for you. Let's talk about what happened the last time that we read together. We saw this picture. And we know that Dex went to his house. He went to go look around, and while he was digging through some different things, he saw Zeke. So he was super excited to see Zeke. And he turned around and he found his family. All right, so this is our last chapter, chapter 15, and this chapter is 2 weeks later. So that means that the tornado already came. Dex already found his family. Now this is 2 weeks later, which means that everything that we've read now is in the past. It's already happened. Dex sat up in bed, his heart pounding. He heard a noise. Was it the tornado siren? He held his breath. No, it was just Dad's phone alarm. Zeke was sprawled out next to Dex. He stared up with worried eyes, his ears pressed back. "We're okay," Dex whispered, kissing Zeke on the head. And they were. Still, it took a minute for Dex's heart to stop pounding, for the nauseous swirl to clear from his stomach. Though he was sleeping better, the tornado howled through his dreams, and he always woke up all sweaty and panicked, reliving the terror of the storm, the jumbled darkness of those first few days. Joplin had been cut off from the world. Many of the roads were closed. Phones were dead and power blacked out. Every hour brought more terrible news. 158 were killed in the storm. They died in their homes, in stores, on the roads, in their cars. More than 1,000 were wounded or hurt. So many families had lost everything that they had. So I'm going to stop right there so we can talk about what I just read. I know it was only a little bit, but that gave us a lot of information. First, we're finding out that Dex is having some nightmares. He's having a hard time understanding that everything that happened shouldn't happen again. He's hearing noises. He's having flashbacks. He's doing these things that are making him think back to how scared he was in that moment. I'm sure that we've all had those moments where maybe we have that nightmare or we think of something scary. And it just makes us worried. And it just takes time to move on from those things and move past them. It also said that from that storm, there were a lot of people that lost their lives. A lot of people that got hurt because they didn't have the correct warning that they needed in order to get safe or stay safe. Dex would never forget those terrifying minutes when he was sure Mom and Dad and Zeke were lost in the rubble. It turned out that Mom and Dad weren't in the house at all. They'd been driving home from the graduation when the sirens went off. Luckily, they'd had enough time to pull over the car and sprint into the basement of a restaurant. Their car had been sucked away, but still hadn't been able to find it. None of them wanted to think about what would have happened if anyone had been in the house when the tornado hit. What if Mom and Dad hadn't stayed after the graduation to help take pictures? What if Dex hadn't gone with Dr. Gage that day? What if they had been in the basement when the beams of their house cracked? A crushing mountain of wood and plaster and appliances and furniture had come crashing into the basement, filling every inch. So we talked about how when a tornado comes, it's important to find shelter and go into your basement. But Dex just told us that they're lucky that they didn't go into the basement, because even though that was supposed to be the safest place, their house, a lot of things with the tornado and with things pounding around, it broke through the floor and filled up his basement. So they would have gotten really hurt if they were down there. Nobody would have survived down there. A big mystery was how Zeke made it through. None of them could figure out how he had suddenly just appeared when Dex was searching through the rubble. It was Dr. Gage who had the best answer. "I told you, your dog has superpowers," he'd said. Dex smiled to himself, thinking of Dr. Gage safe at his house in Tulsa. For an agonizing week after the storm, Dex had no idea whether Dr. Gage was alive or dead. Joplin's main hospital had been practically destroyed, and so Joplin's wounded were taken to hospitals for miles around. With no phone service, they had no way of tracking him down. Finally, the call came from Sarah. Dr. Gage was in a hospital in Oklahoma. He was still weak, but getting better every day. Now that Dr. Gage was back at home, he and Dex spoke almost every day. They'd made a plan for Dex and Mom and Dad to visit him in Tulsa in a few weeks. Dex already had the present he would bring. He'd received it from the wreckage of Dr. Gage's SUV. Dad had gone with him to the parking lot of Peter's garage to see if there was anything in the SUV they thought they could salvage for Dr. Gage. So what they did was, Dex is saying that it took weeks after the storm for them to even know if Dr. Gage was safe because so many people were hurt and their hospital in Joplin got ruined by the tornado that they had to go to different hospitals in the state. So it took a long time before they found out that Dr. Gage was okay. And they're saying that Dr. Gage wants them to come and visit, and Dex picked out a present. They went back to Peter's garage, which, if you remember, that is where Dr. Gage and Dex were in the storm when the SUV got flipped over and they were stuck with the fence and all that stuff. So they went over there to go see what they could find. They found some maps and some important papers in the glove compartment. And Dex discovered something else, the small Hale freezer wedged under the front seat. Dex yanked it free. The battery-operated motor was still going, and inside, that huge piece of hail was still frozen solid. Dex lifted the glistening ball out of the freezer. At first, he wanted to smash it into millions of pieces. That hailstone was part of the storm system that destroyed his city. Yes, it was, and that's why Dex put it back in the little freezer to save for Dr. Gage. Who knew? Maybe there was some secret inside of the icy ball, a clue that would help Dr. Gage unravel the mysteries of tornadoes. Dex finally got out of bed. He got dressed, squeezing around the boxes and bins stacked everywhere in their tiny apartment. Remember, Dex's house was ruined, so they had to go live someplace else. So now they're living in an apartment instead of a house. Each box was filled up with books and dishes and photos and other treasures that they'd managed to salvage from the soggy wreckage of their house. For days, they took their time looking through the big pile of rubble. With the help of volunteers from around the country, thousands of people had flocked to Joplin to help pick up the pieces. And of course, people from Joplin were helping one another too. A friend of Dad's had found this apartment. Mike Sturm brought Dex a whole bag of clothes, some of them brand new. Dylan and his family had donated a TV, some sheets and blankets, and his cot. Dylan had helped Dex get the bed set up, and of course they made it right, the Navy SEAL way like Jeremy would want. They'd even smile at each other, the kind of smiles they used to share back when they'd been best friends. It seemed the tornado had broken down the wall that had risen up between them. And now Dex picked up the little box that was resting on the windowsill. All right, really quick, I'm going to show you this picture. There's Dex. He is holding the hailstone that he found that he wants to give to Dr. Gage. It had arrived in the mail yesterday, sent from a secret military base in some far-off country. It was from Jeremy. Dex's brother had managed to finally get in touch with them 3 days after the storm. He spoke to Mom and Dad, and then Dex finally had his turn. "Jeremy," he'd cried, fighting back tears. At first there was only silence. "Jeremy?" Dex was about to hang up, thinking that they got disconnected. But then came up a choked-up whisper, "Dex." And Dex understood. His brother, his brave warrior brother, was crying. That got Dex crying too, but he didn't care. It was a while before either of them could get a word out. So they were crying because Jeremy was so worried about his little brother and if he was okay, and Dex was worried about his big brother and if he was okay. Both of them are going through different scary situations. One's going through a tornado, and Jeremy, being a Navy SEAL, is going through his mission. They hadn't spoken in a while, so hearing each other's voice really made them emotional. But then they talked and talked and talked, and the call ended with the best news of all, that Jeremy's mission was ending. He would be home for a visit within the month. Dex opened the box Jeremy had sent. He stared at the sparkling gold trident pen, Jeremy's Navy SEAL pen. "You earned this," Jeremy had written. At first, Dex couldn't believe Jeremy was giving it away. That trident was what made Jeremy a Navy SEAL. But no, it wasn't a piece of gold-painted metal that made Jeremy strong and brave. It was what was inside him. And wasn't the same true of Joplin? What Dex loved about Joplin wasn't the buildings and the houses. It was the faith of the people, their strength. A tornado couldn't break that. Dex and Zeke stood at the window. Zeke's ears peeked up at the buzzing of chainsaws and the booming of dump trucks and backhoes, the sounds of Joplin being put back together. Dex thought about his busy day ahead. The Tuckers were finally coming back to Joplin, and Dex was helping them move into their temporary house. Later on, he and Dylan and Mike were going to volunteer in the shelter organized by their church. There was so much to do. Dex's mission had just begun. And that was the end of our story. So at the very end of the story, boys and girls, I think it's really important to talk about all the things that Dex was doing. He was volunteering. He was helping other people move into their temporary house. And a temporary house means that it's just for a little bit of time until they can get their own house. Okay, it's a safe place to live. Dex's apartment that he's living in with his mom and his dad and Zeke is probably temporary. But what's important is that they said that even though all of this was going on, everybody in Joplin was helping each other. That's a big deal, especially with what's going on right now. I know that it's not easy to understand why we're not in school. It's not easy to understand when we're going to come back to school or why you're doing so much work at home. But it's because there's an illness that's going around and it's very serious. So boys and girls, while I'm seeing everything going on in the world, I'm watching the news and I'm hearing about a lot of people that are getting sick. We had to do our job to make sure that you are still learning and growing that big brain of yours outside of the classroom. This is not my idea of how I want to teach, even though, I'll show you, I do have a little co-teacher behind me. He's taking a nap though. But this is not the way that I want to be teaching you guys right now, but we have to keep you safe, okay? So please make sure that you're doing your best to wash those hands, both sides, soap and water, keeping yourself clean, okay? Remember what Nurse Jen said, you sing happy birthday 2 times while you're washing your hands, and that's how you know that you got most of those icky germs off of there, okay? So this is just the first reading video that I'm going to put up, and Mrs. Lou will put some videos up too, but I hope you guys enjoyed hearing the end of our I Survived book. All right, I'm going to read another book here in a moment, so I will see you soon.